Boom. All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to Aesthetic Conversations. It's aesthetic talk with aesthetic people. And tonight I have one of my favorite fucking YouTubers. I've been stalking his page for a while and commenting how handsome he is for at least like over a year now. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, hi, I'm Dr. Sanders. From Gothcast. I'm used to saying this is Dr. Sanders. Welcome to Gothcast, but this is Dr. Sanders from Gothcast. So I do a YouTube channel, and it's probably where a lot of people know me from, or doing a podcast. I've been doing them both for around 4 years. So yeah, talk about goth stuff.
And it's the best. I don't even remember how exactly I found your channel, but I remember I think it was the first one I ever saw was you doing something on Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, because I had randomly found a clip where somebody had reenacted the Over the Moon portion of In Johnny the Homicidal Maniac. They did it actually really good. They did it in this weird way where they painted their eyes to look like a Jonan Vasquez character. Yeah, and then I think it was just that got referenced to me. So I've just been watching your shit ever since.
A lot of people have found my channel through that video, which is so funny because
Really?
that's one of my higher viewed videos, and I'm just I didn't really expect that. Sometimes you never know what videos are gonna really connect with people, or you're gonna get the most comments, and that seems to be one of them.
Really? I mean, especially because that's such a niche like comic, you know what I mean? And especially nowadays.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah. So, and the fandom for that is for Jonah Vasquez is so all over the place too.
Yeah.
And you think it would be like older people now, especially since Invader Zim. I mean, Invader Zim just came back, like for like this week.
Today apparently. Didn't they just release the new movie today, or maybe it was a couple of days ago? This is today.
Yeah, it was on Friday. Yeah.
Really? Have you watched it yet?
Yeah, I watched it. It was great. Yeah.
Was it great?
Yeah.
I have a lot of faith in humanity in it. Usually reboots, I'm not. But I know Jonan Vasquez can't make anything bad. Like he really is the shit, dude.
I thought it was great. I thought it was totally awesome. I hadn't watched Invader Zim in a while, and then I was like, oh well, I guess I'll watch a few episodes because the new one's coming up, and I thought they did it perfect. I mean, it picks up exactly where it left off, so that's why.
Oh no shit. Plus, I'm sure they can get all the old voice actors. I know, Richard Horvitz, I'm sure, is down. Ricky Simmons is the voice of Gurr. I think it's one of like Vasquez's friends. So.
Yeah, they got everybody. It's just it works. But yeah, the John Vasquez, I always think of it as being like older demographic because he hasn't had too much in the spotlight since then. But sure enough, like I think it's a lot of younger people still read all that stuff, which is really cool.
Well, I'm sure it also. I think it varies since Johnny and his earlier shit. It was in the '90s, but he didn't really start getting hardcore publicity until Invader Zim came out. So it's mostly people. I'm 26, so I was a kid when the episodes were coming out every Friday. So a lot of people my age, and then of course like the younger Hot Topic kids somehow stumble upon it when they go to a Hot Topic and find a squee big book of unspeakable horrors. But yeah, that is pretty random. What's your favorite Johnny Vasquez comic?
I mean, it's probably John Homicidal Maniac. I mean, that is kind of the reason I did it first. I mean, I like it, and of course inside that comic they have Anguish, who is like a parody of goth people, and like a lot of that is very true still today.
Yeah, the accuracy, seriously.
So it's just very like, oh, everything is so boring, blah blah. I'm so brooding, and so a lot of that.
All the attention in the planet, and like how not pay attention to me being so goddamn dark.
Exactly, and that's why it's so funny. So it's hard not to like it just because of that. But
yeah, absolutely. I remember for some reason I ended up reading Squee before Johnny the Homicidal Maniac, and then Johnny essentially took over my teen years. And it wasn't until I read it, it's probably about 14 when I first read it, and it wasn't until 18 that I got older where I really realized the relevancy of his depression and how I was like, I know this is like probably a reflection of Jonan Vasquez, whatever he was going in an almost satirical way, but god damn it, there is some accuracy to this shit that he is rambling about. Like,
yeah, people seem to definitely relate to a lot of his viewpoints on stuff. I'll say that now the problem with it now is, at least from a modern perspective, is that if you didn't grow up with it, a lot of it can just seem so edgy. You know what I mean? Like
Overly, over the top, yeah.
Yeah, or just like little interstitials, or like even with Squee, I was reading Squee not that long ago, where it's, you know, like one of the birds is like, oh, like I want blood or something like that, and that kind of stuff. Nowadays, whenever you see it, it's like people are like, oh, I'm so edgy, or whatever. But I mean, that's only because people kept copying what he did, you know.
Exactly. Like, do you ever read Bear?
Read what?
Bear. It's another slave labor graphic comic. It's called Bear
I don't
Immortal,
think
I
so.
think.
I don't
Well,
think so.
it's just straight up Jonan Vasquez influence. The art
Oh
style,
yeah.
the random little like where you'll be reading the comic and there will be a little hidden message in the corner and stuff
Oh
like that.
okay.
I think it's another thing that people don't realize how much influence he actually had on a lot of fucking things.
Yeah.
Especially the whole comic book industry. It's why I, back when I was a kid, wanted to be like a comic book artist. Now that I look back on all my old comic strips, they were just Joan Vasquez ripoffs. Like they were seriously
Yeah.
with a touch of personal flair.
Well, it's like the whole thing about even like the people are like kind of commenting on the style change in the new Invader Zim Enter the Floor Pits, where the characters are like softer looking, like a little more rounded design, and that's because after he had such hard pointed characters, and then over time he slowly made it. I mean, kind of a little bit more modern, where like a lot of characters are rounder and the animation's kind of bouncier, and it's like yeah, because even though he wasn't making TV shows in and like his art and stuff, he was switching over to something a little more like that.
Oh,
But then
really?
people are commenting on now that they look so like round instead
Well,
of the
what was that
hard,
comic you made?
harsh.
Like is it Anything Can Be Beaten? The art style is like a lot softer, like colored from what I remember. I think
Yeah, and
it's like
even
things he made.
yeah, he even had like a proposal or something for another show that was the same style of animation, and that show didn't get made or something. But it's yeah, I think his style works now. I mean, even the new stuff, I think it still is the same characters. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to definitely give it a try. Uh, since we're on the topic of cartoons, and I want this whole thing to just be people getting to know you. What's your favorite cartoon?
Favorite cartoon? Probably Count Duckula.
Really?
Yeah.
No shit. I've never watched that.
Yeah, it's like a 1980s. I think it went to the 90s. I always forget the dates. It had like 7 seasons. So it's it's like a cartoon vampire duck, and when he was brought back to life, they accidentally poured in ketchup instead of blood, and so he needs so he's like a vegetarian. And so it kind of looks, this art style kind of looks like a way more rough version of like say DuckTales or something. But
That's what I thought. That's what first came to my mind was Darkwing Duck. Like at first.
yeah, it's a really cool show, and it's so funny. I bought the DVD. It's like all 7 seasons. I have the DVD set over there, and I imported it years ago, and it was like $20. I mean, that's the total. And then now that's like one of the rarest DVDs I own. It's like well over $100 for that set.
Oh
But
yeah, I'm sure. How did they make 7 seasons and I've never heard about it?
it didn't really air in America quite as much, and that's probably why. I mean, it's you know, is it Thames is the company, THAMES. Like that's like the company, and so it's like it's not in America, so it's probably
What
why.
country did it come from?
Well, I don't know where the animation is, but all the actors have like Cockney accents and stuff.
Oh,
So,
really?
yeah, so it's really funny.
Just gave me a new thing to become obsessed with. Do you have a favorite anime?
Not really. I'm not into anime quite as much. I get asked that all the time. I guess probably something like Studio Ghibli or something, or maybe I like Ghost in the Shell. I mean, like the
Ghost in the
originals.
Shell? Hell, fucking yeah, the show or just the movie itself.
I like I've seen the show. Yeah, I watched it when it was on TV actually, and then Akira,
Yeah.
of course, is like crazy. I had that on VHS. So.
Oh, I've been actually meaning to start a random stupid obsession. Starting an anime VHS collection along with a horror movie VHS collection because that's the kind of dumb shit I like to collect in my free time.
Yeah, I had a ton. I had a pretty big horror VHS collection, but then when I moved from California to Washington, I sold a ton of them off, and actually people actually bought them up. It's pretty.
Really?
They're all like, yeah, I had like the original Evil Dead and like the Reanimators and Night of the Living Dead and stuff. And then I was like, well, I have them on DVD and Blu-ray, so
Right.
I was like, I should probably just I don't want to transport all this stuff. I don't have to, so I sold it all in.
Well, yeah, that stuff start weighing up after a while. That's like I also became fascinated with starting a Laserdisc collection because I found a copy of Fright Night randomly searching eBay,
Yeah.
a Laserdisc copy of Fright Night, and I just had to have it. But that's such a dumb invest. Every time I want to invest in it, I'm just like, Jackson, there's so much other shit you could buy, like shit for this podcast that you could invest in for fuck's sake.
Yeah, the only thing I kept was like all my versions of Blade Runner. I have like almost every version of
Nice.
Blade Runner ever released. And
No shit.
yeah, that's my favorite movie by far. So I kept all those, but everything else was like, do I really need like a DVD, Blu-ray, and VHS copy of the first Evil Dead? Like, probably not.
Right. Well, that answers my question of favorite movie. If you had to pick, since it's a Gothcast, favorite horror movie.
Favorite horror movie? Evil Dead 2.
Holy shit, dude! Yeah, that's definitely top three. Absolutely
Yeah.
top three. I think it's the perfect blend of comedy and horror.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I would have said. I mean, it's just, and the show's great too. Ash vs. Evil Dead. That show is great.
I'm actually waiting this October to watch it and binge it because I know it's on Netflix. But I have this weird tradition of if I find good horror shit that is very like October-y, I'll watch some horror movies out of season, but some stuff I like to save and make a memory in October with so that I have a bunch of good shit compile.
Yeah. I mean, that's most of my life is Halloween stuff anyway. So
yeah.
It's kind of hard to get in the mood when it's 100 degrees outside. Yeah.
Oh yeah. So where do you live in? What state? Washington now?
I live in Washington State.
Nice.
Washington. Got to get my bag.
I've been wanting to visit that place for a while, ever since my friend started taking photography of the wilderness out there because it looks so fucking lit.
Yeah, there's like definitely. It's really strange, you know. Sometimes there's a lot of city stuff here, you know, like obviously Seattle's like pretty much a lot like LA in the way that it's set up and how hectic it can be. And just like, it just feels like there's just always just noise and stuff. But then it's not very hard to go just a few miles outside of the city and then be somewhere where you're just like, this is the same area, sort of, you know, this is still.
Yeah, immersed in nature, essentially.
Yeah, exactly. And especially if you go up north, like there's so much, like basically we drive on the freeway, which is only like just the 5 out here, and just on all sides you just like all this nature and all these trees and stuff. So it's just it's kind of a stark contrast sometimes, like between
that kind of sounds like exactly what I'd be looking for, because I want to live in a city because I want to like do stand up and I want to play music and stuff like that, but at the same time I still like the fucking woods, and I also really hate the city, so I'll need breaks, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'm not a city person at all, which people are always surprised by. I mean,
I believe it.
Yeah, I lived in Orange County and was like near LA and used to go to stuff in Long Beach and everything, but I just am not a fan of I like those kind of events, you know, like, but outside of that, I'd rather just be around nature.
Yeah, I don't blame you. The goth culture, if you really, really think about it, is mostly immersed, at least from what I've known, is Colorado. You know, like Denver. Like I heard there's a really big goth scene in Colorado for some reason.
There's like a few. I mean, it depends on where it is. You have like LA, you have LA, Seattle, Chicago, New York, and then it depends on wherever else there are alternative communities. So I think even like there's some growing scene in like Carolina. There's something like North Carolina or something. But
I might be moving there, so that would be fucking lovely.
Yeah, so it's like they're kind of growing everywhere, but all the scenes kind of in a weird spot right now. I mean, there's so much. I mean, just like everything right now, everyone's, no matter what the fandom or whatever you're into, people are just so divided because of the internet. They're just like, did you see, 35-minute video? And they're like, at 12 minutes and 5 seconds, you said this one thing wrong, video invalid, or it's just like the stuff like that.
Elitists too. Like I personally, like, especially playing in a punk scene, like if I see like a 40-year-old dude in Dickie shorts and like a Minor Threat t-shirt, I don't want to fucking talk to him because I know he's gonna be a cunt. Like about like I'm gonna bring up one genre or band in particular, and he's gonna take a hit of his vape and be like, "You like that, huh?" And I'm like, oh, "Fuck, shit, what did I say? What band did I say?" I know he's gonna rip into me.
I mean, I get it. Yeah, there's definitely concern. A lot of people get intimidated in any music scene. Obviously, like goth is one. Like within this goth, everybody complains about like, oh, there's all these elitists, whatever. But then some people aren't as accepting of anything that isn't exactly this. It's not Sisters of Mercy. It's not from this. It's not. It's not like
I
Susan the
like my lead
Banshees.
singer for Christian Death. I don't like the other. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah, but it's. I mean, that's one of the problems is, and then because of those people who are a very small part of it, then it turns a lot of people off from even asking anything about it, or even maybe even wanting to get involved with it, which is disappointing. Like to me, it's just sad because like maybe they would have gotten along with the people really well, or maybe they would have made some friends or something like that, but because of these other people intimidated them, like when they're actually out in a physical place somewhere, they're just like, oh, I don't want to talk to them. They remind me, or they may visually look like this person who was really mean to me.
yeah.
That's what's so disappointing. And I think that unfortunately, I mean, that's for any scene, but I think that, yeah, of course, with music scenes and how people are really divided on a lot of stuff now, it's just, it's discouraging people from getting as involved as they might have before.
Fucks it up for the band too. I've said that same thing with like the type of idea that you're saying with politics a lot. And I don't know dick about politics. Anytime a person talks about politics, I'm like, you like these sheep fries, man? I want to talk about that. You know what I mean? You can't hate fuck somebody into loving you. You know what I mean? Like if you just scream at the person and call them a dick, then they're immediately gonna assume what you identify with is the bad thing. You know what I mean? Like, oh, like let's say you're a Sanders supporter or whatever, and you're yelling at a Trump supporter like you're a fucking cunt, then he's gonna be like, okay, well, my Trump supporting friends are nice to me. You're a Sanders supporter and you're being a cunt to me. So obviously Sanders supporters are bad. When it also fucks up for the fandom of the band because you might ruin. You don't like that's the weird thing with music. You don't hate the band. You hate the fucking fan base that permeates for like Black Veil Bride's kids or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like
That's a good example.
yeah, like literally. Like I actually like Black Veil Brides and I hated them for the longest time, and then I listened to them and I got out of being like a little closed-minded hipster fuck, and they're not the fucking worst. They're not an antichrist band of fucking awfulness. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I mean that's a lot of bands too. It's that that's just one of those things. That's one of the things where I think before the internet and just being able to look up like oh, there's a band, I can look up everything about it, all their Instagram, and look up a million stuff and what everybody's saying about it, and then you're like, oh, all the comments for this are just like, oh, this guy's so hot, like whatever, and you're like, is anything about the song actually?
yeah,
But back in the day, you get a CD, and then you're just like, you listen to it, and like that's all your perspective. It's not like you can pull up music videos. You could maybe go onto like online message boards or something like that, but even then, it was still probably pretty hardcore people into it to get onto dial up or even slower internet to go talk about it. But it's you kind of only had your perspective, and then now it's like people are like, I don't know why people are so obsessed with that. Those fans creep me out, so then they don't want to get into it.
yeah. That's why I've always literally like exactly what you're saying. That's why when I listen to new bands, I actually have this really particular thing where I don't like watching music videos of bands because even I'll find myself subject to, if I don't like the way a band looks, it sort of damages my like opinion. Yeah. I'm talking shit against it. I know it's wrong, but I'll do it. I'm not gonna lie. Like it fucks me up.
Oh, we're humans. We're visual creatures. I mean, it's just how we are. It's just...
especially with music. Especially you're into goth culture. I'm into goth culture or whatever. Yeah, it's all a fucking like aesthetic. Do you know what I mean? Like, how many bands have you seen that you feel like could have been bigger if they had a better vibe to them? Because you got one dude in the band with black fingernails and black shit. Then you got one, it's like a fat dude in like a plaid t-shirt and like a side fade. And then there's another person who's just like wearing a cape, and you're like, what the fuck is?
Well, it's also because I talk about a lot of albums that I think should get more love. Even like Christian Death Ashes, or there's like a few different examples. I forget, man, there's a whole bunch. I mean, even like bands like Stone 588 or trying to think of like a whole bunch of good ones. I'm looking at a wall. Even like Klein of Zymox has some good music videos, but the point is, and some of them were okay, but even bands like Nosferatu and stuff, they have some good music videos, like, but they're very few and far between. And I think, unfortunately, today that probably affects them a lot more than it did back then, because, you know, you could go buy a cassette or something like that, and you weren't expecting to be like, oh, I can go look up every music video, and then you don't find any, and you're like, oh, well, I didn't really get a feel for the band. And then now when a band, you're like, oh, look at old music videos, are so cool, and like you get to look up a band's entire catalog, or like The Cure. Like Cure have like a ton of music videos, and they fare really well in today's modern landscape, and a lot of younger people are into them. And even bands who might have released really good albums, if they have no promotional things, there's no live videos that were ever shot, there's no professional music videos from back then, it's sometimes I feel like they get a little bit left out. Like Rosetta Stone. That's an amazing band. Amazing, like, what first band? Album, a Rosetta Stone.
I've actually never listened to them.
Yeah, it's like it's great, like 90s, late 80s, early 90s rock band, and they like did a whole bunch of stuff, and they actually just did an album recently, but like, but all their old stuff, they only ever had like 1 or 2 music videos, and it's just, I think that they would have been a lot more popular. Even today, they would be a lot more popular if they had just more visual stuff from back then. Yeah. It's just the way that it works, and there is definitely an aesthetic preference people have for whatever they're into, right? So 100%. YouTube is a perfect example of, like, you know, take my channel, right? Say there was, or like a punk, right? Let's say like somebody's talking about punk music, right? And you have 2 YouTube videos, same exact length, say the same exact words, and you have one with a guy in a suit, and then you have another guy who has all the patches, the studs, and a mohawk. If it's the exact same video, probably more people are going to be much more receptive and nicer to the guy who has like the mohawk and all, and just the visual stuff with it. So it's one of those things where, like, I understand people like, oh, you know, goth YouTube, or even just any kind of YouTube, like say pick your, like, oh, metal YouTube, or I don't know. It's like, well, people only watch the ones where they look so much like this specific way. It's like, yeah, because yeah, it's because people like associate a certain thing with it, and for better or worse, it just is what people want to see, or the people who want to talk about it. I mean, we're humans. We like to see. Yeah,
we're creatures of stereotype. Like, I mean, honest to God, we are like hardcore creatures of stereotype. You know, you're always taught to not stereotype anything and stuff like that, but there's certain ones that are just automatically, you know, boink in your brain. And I completely agree. Like, I've tried explaining to people before when it comes to the music industry, because if somebody was explaining to me, someone was talking about Dave Grohl was like how to get successful in the music industry, and all the things he said were like so outdated, because this is how you get into the music scene. You take like your 12, let's say you got 12 songs. I don't have as many hands, but you got 12 songs. What you do is, which song is the absolute best? Seriously, which is the one that our crowd responds to or we think is the best? You take that, you produce the shit out of it. You record it and master it like a motherfucker. You make a music video for that, and then you plug the shit out of it on social media. And that's how people like Gus Dapperton and like Clyro get famous, you know? Like Clyro, yeah, made a fucking music video in her dorm with a song that she wrote in a day when she was in a bad mood, and now she's like touring Europe. Like, you know what I mean? Like, it's interesting. It's interesting how it works now.
Yeah, that's the thing about, like, especially with music, it's a lot of people are doing more of that, where they're just producing a song all themselves, and they don't even really have a band. And then, which is disappointing, because I like bands and guitars and stuff so much more. And yeah, and that's just really, it is such a disconnect for a lot of people. They just don't understand. I mean, a lot of people don't even understand how YouTube necessarily works, or like how you make money off of YouTube, or like you try to explain it to people, or even like, hey, you do plugs for your podcast, and it's like, you know, it's like, oh yeah, you got paid. I was like, yeah, it's like you actually get paid for that. Like,
yeah, it's weird. It's insane. Like people talk about how shitty this generation is because of that thing. It's mostly old timers, but it's also mostly haters, where they're like, can you believe, like, the dumb girl sold her bathwater for this much money? And I'm like, that's kind of amazing. That's amazing. And they're like, why? And I'm like, because we live in a world where you don't have to be subject to a shitty 9-to-5 factory job that you reluctantly go to every single day begrudgingly. You can instead just develop a personality and sell it on YouTube, you know, or any sort of social media platform, and you can make more than lawyers. It's awesome. Like that's fucking awesome, dude.
Yeah, it's really it's a strange world. I mean, I that's one of the things too. I really like a lot of aspects of that. Of course, there's a lot of aspects that are negative about it. Of course,
Yeah.
the isolation of people distancing themselves from like communities and stuff, or
Mm.
being an introvert and then seeing a promotion of that, and then it gets worse because you're like,
Yeah.
oh, like I can be more of an introvert because I'm getting like what I need as a social thing. It's being reinforced by this and whatever, and so it's okay. And and some
100%.
people it's totally healthy. You can be totally healthy introvert. Some people aren't. So it's just and just like the whole thing of where everyone's so just divided and people just are hating on each other and stuff. So it's just it has good and bad because if you want to make an album, say you play guitar and you want to make an album, you can make it album right now, like, and that's amazing. That's like totally great. Like, but and then you could go make music videos, and then you go put the music videos out there, and you could do all that stuff that you wanted to do that was way more difficult when you only had a VHS camcorder or something. But
Mhm.
it's just sad whenever people like there's also a lot of negative with it, and then
100%.
yeah, and then also of course people get into it not knowing the effect that like it can have on you with say like YouTube comments or something like that. Like I'm not really phased by YouTube comments at all. Like if there's negative YouTube comments, I don't even care at all. Like I don't care. Like I have 99% of people are very nice
Yeah.
and but like people who get into YouTube are usually kind of artistic and then they focus on that one. There could be thousands and thousands of comments that they never respond to. They're like, "Oh, it's great. Oh, I love your channel, whatever." And they have
And
the one that's
we'll dig
negative,
into
and
you.
then that's the one that they respond to. That's the one they give all the attention to. It's the one they focus on. Like,
Mhm.
can you believe this person? I'm like, there was 1,000 other comments before that comment, and they were all nice, but that's the one that you decide to give attention to. Like, a whole bunch of people would
Yeah.
love to just get a little bit of attention from you. Like that person said, "I love your channel so much." Would love just to hear, "Oh, thank you so much," But like
Yeah.
those people like, try to stick out and then get the attention. I just think it's
Well,
like,
that's like I actually just saw that. Like, it's interesting that you brought that a couple days ago on this one bodybuilder that I follow named John Skywalker. Someone said made fun about uh, if you know what gynecomastia is by any chance. It's when you take steroids and your nipples get hard, like puffy.
yeah,
Yeah, and he put like something about blah blah blah, your puffy nipples, motherfucker. And so he ripped into him right underneath that, and he was like, "Bro, I'm just kidding. I'm a huge fan. I just wanted to get you to like read this and respond. Love you, bro."
yeah. There you go.
Yeah, you fucking gave him what you wanted, you fucking idiot. And it's like my friend Austin, who's he was like I always called him because I'm originally from outside of Chicago, like Danville, Illinois. And I always called Gustafson Champagne's only goth kid. And he was just talking to me one day about some people making like fucking redneck jokes or making fun of him for the way he dresses. And I said, Gustafson, you shouldn't care about that because the simple fact that you're always going to get made fun of for the way you dress. Like, because think about it like this. Let's say you look just like those redneck idiots that made fun of you. Then you know who would be making fun of you for being that redneck idiot? Me. Like, you know what I'm saying? I would be or you know what I'm saying? Not necessarily me, because I don't give a shit about how anybody does that. But somebody would be like, haha, you fucking, look at you dipshit redneck inbred motherfuckers. Like, you can't win. So, like,
Yeah,
really, like, someone's always going to hate you. Real Big Fish said it the best when they said, no matter what, no matter who, no matter what you do, somebody hates you.
that's true too. And it's just like if you go to a goth night or a goth event, whatever, and everybody's dressed goth, I mean, you're not gonna look at a place. It's like there's some dude who shows up in a polo shirt. It was like, okay, that's kind of strange, but and then, but it's so funny because most goth events, if somebody does that, then everybody's just kind of cool with it, like, oh, that's strange, whatever. But
He
then
might be into music hardcore, and he just had to get a fucking job.
yeah, and but then if you go out as like full goth makeup anywhere else, people are just gonna be giving you looks, and they don't care how rude they are, and it's just like I'm like that's so strange because I don't really care what these people do, but they seem to be really interested in what I'm doing.
It is. We're
But
bored.
it's
That's why old people fascinate me with the fact that it's an entire generation that taught two generations, their children and their grandchildren, not to stare. And now they preoccupy their retirement staring at every goddamn thing that crosses their path.
I don't know how much I don't know how much it is older generation. I mean, I grew up in a town that was I grew up in Palm Desert, so it was like I think more than half of the population is 55 and up,
Mhm.
and so I think I was kind of used to like the desert's like 10 years behind everybody else,
Yeah.
and
Is
it
it?
has a
Actually, I have no fucking clue. Yeah.
yeah, it's both a good thing and a bad thing because you kind of don't care about what's like mainstream stuff or I mean nowadays it's probably different because the internet,
Yeah.
so is a thing, so you can kind of be exposed to everything that is happening really easily, but it there are people. I don't think you ever seen that video generations don't exist, and it basically breaks down like, oh, generations only like you take two people who like a super successful person who's 28 and they take a stoner who never does anything is 28. It's like they're from the same generation, like it doesn't those people have nothing in common at all, like in their whole life, and then it's basically explains that generations don't really exist. It's just a way for people to discriminate against people from a different time period, who are younger than them. And I really agree with that. I don't think generations exist. I think you could be whatever age and you could be a totally awful person to everybody, or you could be, whatever age and be totally awesome to everybody. But
Okay, I agree. No, obviously I completely agree with that. But I don't know, man. I have this weird beef with old people lately. Because I grew up. Right now, I currently reside in Dubuque, Iowa, which is pretty much primarily consists of rich old white people.
mm-hmm.
I don't know, man. Those people are pretty goddamn awful, dude.
I won't disagree with that. But well, that's my perspective. I'll keep my
It's a
perspective.
beautiful one because honestly, you should always in your life, you should always look at life in the aspect that there's just shitty people. I think it's the only thing that's going to end racism is to just understand that every ethnic group has committed the same atrocities as every other ethnic group, and you should just boil it down to, yeah, some people just do shitty things. You know what I mean? Like, just some people do awful shit, and it's us as a whole. Uh, like as humanity, just kind of just bad shit happens. Animals kill shit too, and it's just the whole entropy of the universe.
Well, it's like that thing. It's just like majority of humans are pretty awful if you take everything into perspective. Like, I don't know. It's
Must
just
be Elon Musk. He thinks
sorry,
we're all pretty fucking magnificent, or not
is,
magnificent, but
is that what Elon Musk says?
he said because he made a really good point. I've said this too. He's like, if you meet a person, let's say you guys don't necessarily get into it on a good foot. He's like, but I think once you meet a person, you all can find a common foot to stand on together. Because you meet a person, there's something that you guys can generally agree on, and if you get to know that person and you're intimate with them, most people you find they're a good person. You know what I'm saying? Like yeah, man, do you like Tostino's pizza rolls? Yeah, dude, I love those too. Hey, like, do you want to eat some pizza rolls together? And that's a beautiful thought to really think about the fact that there's something that you can find in common with a person and probably bond over, but people aren't willing to take that step.
Yeah, exactly. But hey, it's the world we live in right now.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's a deep subject.
Anyway, we just got serious shit right now, Goth.
Yeah.
I did not expect this. That was beautiful. Okay, now we're gonna get into the more goth questions. The
Sure.
3 albums. Try to pick 3 quintessential albums that if a person approached you was like, and it doesn't even have to be goth albums. I'm just talking about you in particular. Somebody approached you and was like, "Hey, what 3 albums would you recommend me?" Because I don't really know music that much.
Okay. So for my personal taste, it would be Typo Negative's October Rust.
Ooh.
It would be Sister Mercy, First and Last and Always, and probably let me think what the third one could be. Probably let's see. I don't know, probably like Cure's Disintegration or something like that. Some Cure album.
I'd show them that for production value of just how the track lining of Disintegration goes. It's just done so well. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like how the emotions and just the tone and the speed of everything, like, it's just so fucking genius. It's so good, dude.
Yeah, it's a really, yeah, the album is it's been like so crazy. It's been a long time since I've like really sat down and listened to it. It's hardcore because I did like for the podcast, because we do it where we review 4 albums every time. So I listen to so much new music all the time, and a lot of times I don't have necessarily the time to go back and, if I've already reviewed something, I'd listen to it so much,
Absolutely,
and take in a whole bunch. Yeah, and take a whole bunch of notes and stuff on it. So that album, even from you just look at the evolution of that band, it's just so crazy whenever they got there, because it was not even like their first or even close to their first record. And I think it was their 6th album, or I think so. Let's see. You have, maybe even more. Let's see. Pornography is the 4th. You have the Top. You have Head on the Door, Kiss Me, Kiss Me, Kiss Me. Is that the 8th? Still, it's not they're not even close to their first album. It's just so amazing.
Yeah, I know, it's incredible. What was I about to say about that? Yeah, and especially if you listen to some of their earlier shit, the Boys Don't Cry or whatever. If you listen to that, and how it's just kind of almost like English pop rock. You know what I mean? The whole album through. If you listen to Killing an Arab and all that stuff, it's just kind of pop rocky, and it's so fucking good. And then they progressed into just a whole different tone. Speaking of new goth bands, have you ever listened to Twin Tribes?
Oh yeah.
Twin Tribes, they restored my faith in modern music, man. Seriously, or not restored it, because I always think that there's going to be some good shit that comes out no matter what. I think there will always be some bands that I will end up liking, but man, they are phenomenal. I'm actually going to be doing a podcast with them soon.
Oh really?
Yeah, and then Heaven Process, if you know who that is.
I don't know who Heaven Process is now.
Yeah, he's new wavy. He's really, really good. And then I want to do one with Cartilage Casanova, if you know who they are.
Okay.
Yeah, I think Twin Tribes is amazing. I'm trying to think if I had a bunch of other questions in my brain, but what was the first movie that impacted you in a profound way?
Apocalypse Now.
Never watched it. Fuck me. I never watched it, dude. I'm going to have you make me, for one, a music playlist. I would love that. If you ever have the time to do that.
I have some on. We have a Spotify thing where I make the playlist called I think it's Amazing Goth Songs - Gothcast or something.
I'm going to have to look that up.
And I have some playlists on there that are tagged Gothcast in the playlist name that are not the podcast, obviously, but
so as long as I type Gothcast on Spotify, I'll find it.
Yeah, you should. I mean, Spotify's pretty good about that stuff. But yeah, Apocalypse Now was crazy. I saw that when I was pretty young, so I was just like, well, this is unlike any other movie. It was so dark and just really spooky, and it was just not like any. It still isn't like any other movie. But and then Francis Ford Coppola went back and re-edited it 7 times.
Oh, is that a Coppola film? I didn't know that.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, gosh, that actually the making of documentary Apocalypse Now is, some people like it better than the actual movie because the movie was so crazy to make.
Really?
Martin Sheen, that's Charlie Sheen's dad. Mm-hmm. He was drinking so much, and he had and that was so hot. Whenever he had a heart attack during the making of the movie, and he had to have his twin brother come in and sit in for some parts of it.
What the fuck?
Yeah, because Martin Sheen's brother looks exactly like him, so it's really eerie.
I never knew that. I knew who Martin Sheen was. I didn't know he had a goddamn twin.
Yeah, and they sound the same too. So he could actually talk like him, and it sounds like Martin Sheen.
Okay, that's gonna be on my list of films to watch this October. Now, 3 favorite bestest vampire flicks.
Oh, what we do in the shadows.
Oh, it's such a fucking good one, dude.
Nosferatu from
What?
Nosferatu from 1979.
Okay.
And
from 79?
Yeah, 79. So there's a one. It's by Werner Herzog, and it's a remake of the original Nosferatu, but it's probably one of the most goth movies ever.
Really? Holy shit.
Yeah, and then probably The Hunger with David Bowie.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Never watched that one. God damn it. All right,
there's so many.
Movies.
There's so many.
With how addicted I am to vampire flicks, I'm surprised that I haven't watched that, especially because Bowie's God. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I mean,
dude.
If I couldn't choose The Hunger, because The Hunger does have some issues, but it has David Bowie, so it's
Right.
But there's so many good ones like Lost Boys or Bram Stoker's Dracula from '90s or
Near Dark.
I'm not so hot on that one. I mean, I like it, but I like it, but it's not. I think there's so many other ones I like more.
I like the imagery of it, and there's some scenes like in the beginning or whatever when the girl's like, "Can you hear that?" I don't know. There's like such beautiful parts to it
Yeah,
that
the bar scene.
that's a lot
That's
of
like the
times
best.
what movies comprise of me is like certain scenes that I'm like, "Oh, that's so fucking." Because Lost
Yeah.
Boys is probably my favorite movie of all time.
Yeah.
There's just something about it to me. Did you ever watch Girl Walks Home Alone at Night?
Yeah, that was recommended to me by a viewer one time. I did watch it. It's pretty good.
I fucking adore it, dude. I remember watching that at 3 a.m. on a spring night, and it just really resonated with me. Again, another movie where it's just like the imagery is so fucking good. And my friend who's a horror movie maker, he just hated it. I don't remember why, but he just despised it.
Yeah, there's so much. There's like insane amount of really really good vampire movies. It's just hard to choose one because you have like Let the Right One In. You have
So good.
Only Lovers Left Alive. You
I
have
haven't watched it yet. I watched certain bits and pieces of it, and what I did see, I was like, well, this is fucking depressing. I'm into it.
yeah, and like or the Horror of Dracula from the 50s. That's like one of my favorites. And
Another
like
movie I'm gonna have to watch.
there's just so like there's so many. I have literally like a collection of a huge vampire collection. So it's just yeah, it's sometimes hard to choose them, but I think Nosferatu 79 had to be in there along with What We Do in the Shadows because it's so funny.
Yeah, it's amazing. Watiki is a phenomenal director. It's so weird that he made that Flight of the Conchords and then made the last Thor movie.
Yeah, the Ragnarok.
Yeah, so weird, right?
That's so fun. Oh, and then he has a reference to it in it. In the in that movie, when they're picking weapons, like one of them is like a giant spear with like stakes on the end of it, and so he's like, "What use is that?" So he's like, "Well, if you got to kill 3 vampires."
I don't remember that. Holy shit!
Yeah, it's a reference to the What We Do in the Shadows.
What the fuck? How the fuck do I? I guess that wouldn't have registered to me, honestly.
Well, yeah, if you're not looking for it, especially.
Yeah. Do you have a favorite superhero?
Does Sandman count as a superhero?
Sandman? Kinda. That's another comic book I really need to read.
Oh my gosh, that's when you
That's like that. I know that's quintessential goth shit. I know that's what every person wants to look like literally. He's got the fucking Robert Smith hair. He's got the emaciated body. You know what I mean? Like he's randomly in Rick and Morty for fuck's sake.
Yeah, you dream and then you have death, and every goth girl wants to look like death.
Yep.
It's just, I mean that comic is so well written too.
God damn it! You're giving me so much good shit to look forward to, like watching and reading, that I feel like a poser for not even fucking having dove into this. You know what I mean?
All this stuff is just so. It's just so good. Like, well, Sandman's like it gets a little rough at some points. I think because I have all of the Sandman that's pretty much ever been released, other than like the newest stuff, and like even if you're buying the volumes, there's only a few. Like it got so much into fantasy as it went on, which is good. I mean, I like that stuff too, but like the original stuff was so much more gritty and more horror like. And man, those like the first like you buy the first 3 volumes of that of just the original run of Sandman.
Spoil it for me real quick in case there's spoiler alerts. All right.
No, it's too hard to even explain for it to even be a spoiler. Like, but it's just like those first few. Or maybe it's the 4th. There's however many there. I think it's 3 or the first 3 or 4 volumes. If you just read those, I think you like it's some of the best comic books you can ever read.
Okay, I'm definitely gonna have to either Google search that shit and read them. Again, another October thing to do.
Yeah, that one's great.
What was your first show you ever went to?
First show I ever went to.
Not like a local band, but a notable band.
Probably like Styx or something.
Oh no shit.
Yeah.
Now I haven't listened to too much of them, but I love why can't I remember this? I wanna let the time go. Sunday. That song's a banger.
They have a lot of really good music. It's so funny because they went so like poppy in the 80s, and it was just like so terrible. Like,
really? What were they?
They were more like a more like a standard rock band, like kind of
Of that time period.
Yeah, of like the 70s, and like you listen to Grand. I mean, some of it is definitely poppy with like the keyboards and stuff, like with the Grand Illusion or those kind of albums. But they like a lot of the songs were so much heavier, and then it became like so insanely cheesy 80s. But a lot of their songs are still, I think like amazing. But I mean, of course you have the cheesiness of like "Come Sail Away" and stuff like that.
Yeah, but I think it's only cheesy because of the reputation that it's received. Like I remember he was like the guy I wish was my dad at this one factory job I worked, and he's the one that really showed me a lot of really good metal. And I remember him explaining to me, and I remember asking him one day, I was like, "Why did Winger fail?" And he said, "Beavis and Butthead." And I was like, "Why?" And they was like, "'Cause Stewart wore that shirt, and that's why Winger's career was destroyed." And I was like,
Yeah.
"Are you being serious?" And he's like, "Yes." Because I was like, because I love all shitty like hair metal. Like I love like
butt rock.
Yeah, I love like Shotgun Messiah. I love Nitro. I love like I don't know if you consider Racer X that necessarily. It's more like just good speed.
Nitro, some deep cuts there, yeah.
Yeah, I love it. I love Razor Maid. I love all that shit. And I even like Winger. I appreciate
some Y and Z.
Y and Z.
And then that one of those bands, or Y and T. What is that?
I don't know.
It's a whole bunch of bands. Yeah.
There's shitloads of them. And like I said, for the majority, I like all of them. And then there's some bands who people can't believe I don't like Guns N' Roses, and I'm like, I just never got into them. I despise AC/DC. I like some bands that people can't believe I do, and then there's some bands that people can't believe I don't, and it's just like I like it. Are there any bands that you like that people wouldn't guess that you like?
I mean, probably. I mean, not necessarily. I mean, I've done a few Q&As and stuff to answer some of that, but like, I mean, I like a lot of alternative rock, which I talk about in the podcast a little bit, or I mention it here and there. Like, I really, really, really like the Smashing Pumpkins. I think that's like an amazing band, and they crafted some really good stuff. And they started off as actually pretty much like a new wave band, and they had listen to some of those songs, and it's just like you're just like couldn't even believe that it was the same band a few years later. But
yeah, then it's jam rock. Well, let me ask your opinion on that, because I actually just had a conversation with a band that was playing at my bar. Because Machina and Adore are my favorite generation of Smashing Pumpkins. Yeah. I think it's their best music. I think Age of Innocence, other than I Don't Want to Be Me by Typo Negative, might be my favorite song of all time for Machina. So what's your opinion on those two albums in particular?
I mean, I like him. I think Adore is... It unfortunately kind of dates itself because any band that was trying to do like electronic music in that time, it ends up reminding people of like The Matrix or something, where the production was a very specific way for most of that kind of music. It just really
came out the same year, right?
Huh?
Came out the same year, didn't it? Like 99?
It was like 90. I think Adore came out in 1998.
Okay.
But like Apples and Oranges, like that's a great song, but it's very easy. It's very easy to figure out when it was released.
Yeah, like that break beat almost like sounding shit. Yeah, I get you.
Yeah, and then but I think overall the song structures are really good. And actually, when they went to go play them live and stuff, it's funny because Adore is both very electronic, and then they also have things like Tashila, which is some very soft acoustic-y things, or Perfect, which is kind of like a blend of their kind of 1979-esque sound.
Yes. It's perfect. It's literally perfect, dude. That song is so good, dude.
Yeah, they do stuff like that, and I think it worked really well. I think that some of the songs live especially worked better. Like what's that one song? Maybe it's Tashila. There's one song they did from around that time where, like, if you listen to the live version, they did an acoustic version of it, and it was just, I was like, that's way better than the actual album version. And it's probably just because it felt less dated and it was a little more live, which is what that album. The only problems I have with those albums is that they kind of felt like less of a band jamming, whereas especially
because it was the Billy experience at that point.
Yeah, and like when especially for Adore, where they didn't have Jimmy Chamberlain playing drums, that was like the best part of Siamese Dream and Gish. Yep. So
absolutely,
and of course, yeah.
Yeah, he was absolutely phenomenal. I'm trying to remember what did they get him back for Machina? I think at that point,
Yeah,
and then I think he quit again at once they started recording the actual music videos.
yeah, they got him
Um,
back. They get him back for Machina, but then they got into a disagreement with Billy Corgan again.
yeah, it's he's I don't know, man. Like I've had so many arguments with that too, and I'm like, you can't take away what Billy Corgan made because he's a musical fucking genius. But especially with those, and then yeah, I argue with those two albums. Um, yeah, are there any other bands that you'd like to specifically note that are?
I mean, I really like the Pixies. I mean, that's a great band. Um,
Enough of them.
I think. Oh, I really like the band the Flaming Lips.
Yeah,
Like
I'm
that
gonna be
band.
seeing.
You're gonna be seeing the Flaming Lips. Yeah, that band's insane. And like a lot of their. I mean, I don't get me wrong. I do like their new stuff as well. Um, but a lot of their older stuff before, because they have basically two versions of the band. They have like their
Oh,
alternative punk psychedelic version from the 80s, like 84 to like 94 or 95.
mhm.
And then they switched to like now where they're more like modern psychedelia with electronic stuff. And so a lot
I
of the,
haven't nearly enough.
yeah, like all their early albums where they're more of like a rock band that has psychedelic stuff, I like that a lot more just because the guitar. Like if it has good guitar or interesting guitar, I'm on board for it. But
Really?
yeah, like a lot of those bands from that time, like Jane's Addiction and stuff. I really like them, but it's just I feel like a lot of it does have some similar stuff to a lot of the stuff that influenced goth music, but it kind of just split. I mean, they have like a lot of goth music has really interesting guitar work, and like one thing I do feel that a lot of goth bands lack in is good drums or something, because so many of them use like a drum machine,
Yeah.
uh, and sometimes that's made up for with like rock and roll bands, like just standard alternative rock.
Okay, I can see what you're saying with that.
Oh,
Well, let's see.
thank you. So.
Are there any musicians in particular? Because I saw you had a bass guitar, right?
Oh yeah, I play music. Yeah, I mean I have a few
Do
albums.
you have any? Do you have any stuff like recorded and released?
Yeah, I have multiple albums. Yeah.
How I don't know how I didn't know about this. I haven't, well, I guess, watched the podcast and I guess a little bit, but or watched nearly enough of it. What's the band so I can plug it?
It's just Dr. Sanders. I mean,
It's just
I'd
Dr.
done
Ten.
yeah, because I used to play in a band called Failing Minds, and we like played all around Orange County and stuff. And I did an album with them. It was like more heavy alternative rock, and it was we did an album called Black and Sea. We did like a live album live in Long Beach, and we had like another EP that came out. But like I played with Failing Minds, and I love that album. I love that album so much. Black and Sea, I think it's
It's a
like
sweet fucking name, by the way.
Failing Minds, yeah. And then after before and after Failing Minds, I did one solo album before that was like mostly instrumental album in 2010. I released that, I think. And then I did an album in 2014, I think. That was called Blush Response, and that was if you look up
Sweet
my
name. Okay, holy shit, that's a sweet fucking name.
yeah, if you look up there's the Dr. Sanders Animal. It's Ahneemal. That's a music video. I did that music video for that song. So Dr. Sanders Animal. You can find it on Gothcast.
I'll plug the link in the description.
Yeah, so it's like you can go watch the music video for that album, Blush Response, and then I'm working on a new album too. So I always work on music a lot. Yeah, so it's
Fuck, man, if you ever want to fucking move to shitty Iowa and start a fucking band, I'm writing some stuff right now, dude.
I'm good. I think.
Yeah, I am
But
good.
I'll remember.
Yeah, just remember old Jack Daniel. He'll fucking. I'll do you right. Are there any celebrity crushes? If you had to pick one celebrity crush,
Probably Tilda Swinton.
who?
Tilda Swinton, she's God, so many things. I mean, she's the female vampire in Only Lovers Left Alive.
Oh, really?
Yeah, long blonde
Her?
hair and that. Yeah,
The chick that was in she was in Constantine, wasn't she?
yeah, she was also in Constantine.
She played fucking I forget what the angel's name was. Interesting. I would never guess that.
Yeah.
I don't
I
know
think
what I was guessing. I was like Phoebe Cates or some shit, I guess.
I don't know, Winona Ryder or I don't know. Probably the one that gets, yeah, right, yeah, no. So I got, yeah, a similar Beetlejuice thing over there, but like, there's also the one that always throws people off. The one I like is I always thought is it Kristen Stewart was pretty attractive, but
Really?
I don't know. I don't really get like celebrity crushes that much. I don't really I always think I don't know. I think of most people like whether it's musicians or movies and stuff. I just think of them as mostly real people, so they probably aren't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily that fun to hang out with, but they're very fun to watch do what they do. But
No, I'm the
you know,
same way. I don't really have too many celebrity crushes. Like, I don't know. I'm like, I don't know. I don't know exactly what stereotype people have for me, essentially, but I guess they figured I'd like scene or emo girls, and I pretty much just only bang Latina girls. That's like very random. But that's my thing.
I see.
That's just kind of my thing, and that's just how it goes.
That makes sense. That makes sense to me.
Does
I
it?
could I could see it. I guess I don't know.
Kind of my brow is that yeah. Is that something?
Hmm. Yeah, that's an
Okay.
interesting one.
I'm trying to think if there's any other questions. Do you like stand-up comedy?
It's okay. I mean, I don't know. I guess I like most stuff. I guess I don't know.
Yeah. What are
I
your
pretty
interests outside of work? I mean, outside of like doing the podcast and friends and family, do you have any weird hobbies? Do you like collect rocks for fuck's sake or anything like that?
I mean, most of the stuff is pretty obvious. Like I do art, paint. One thing that is a hobby that nobody connects with me at all is I really like bodybuilding. Like I like watching bodybuilding competitions and stuff.
Dude, I am I don't know if you ever looked at my Instagram, but I am obsessed like
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
with bodybuilding. Like that's another yeah, that's why I'm trying to start a clothing line literally called Emo Aesthetics where I want to become this is weird. I want to become the hot topic bodybuilding supplement company
Oh
and
man,
apparel.
gotta get Kai Green on it.
Oh, dude, I almost bought some whey. He had a sale today. Literally, he had 2 tubs of whey for $20, and I
There you
hopped.
go.
I as one of literally my favorite. I think he might be the greatest bodybuilder ever, in my
I
opinion.
think Kai Green's my favorite. I mean, he
He's
just
so weird. He's
I
so weird, and he's fucking amazing. Like if you ever hear him talk, he's a Jedi. Like
I
he's
know.
wow, Sanders. Holy shit! I feel like we're having a real connection right now. Jesus fucking Christ.
Yeah, and just like his change from like a few years ago to where he was so serious, and then like to now where he's joking around, and he's a lot more like
He's
zen
painting
out.
and he's doing like acting and just he'll go in the middle of a park with a Jabberwocky mask and do some very amazing dance performances.
Yeah, he's in Stranger Things too.
Yeah, dude, that blew my mind. Literally, like my girlfriend, I heard her eardrum because I jumped up so high because I was like, "Fucking cut!" Yeah, and I couldn't fucking believe it, dude.
That's
I'm like,
it.
I'm so glad. He's so amazing. He deserves so much more recognition.
I know, and freaking Phil Heath was like still beating him. I'm like, oh come on, man! Like Phil Heath totally lost like at least once to him, but they had to give him the title because sponsors and stuff.
I don't know. I believe that to an extent, but sometimes I would watch every single because I'd always do physique comparisons. Like whenever there's a Mr. Olympia, there's a person that I know competes. I'll always do physique comparisons, and I'm always kind of like, yeah, Phil Heath won. Son of a bitch.
Ah,
Yeah, Phil Heath won. Who else do you like? Holy shit, this is something I could ramble about for fucking centuries.
I mean, lots of people. I mean, I love a lot of the classic ones, but of course, like Ronnie Coleman was crazy, but
He's
you
the
also
best,
have
hands
like
down.
Flex Wheeler was insane too, but like you just who was the other guy? There was
I'm sure I know who he is, but
I can't think. Oh God, I can see his face. It's like I can't remember what his name is now. There's another guy who was like I think he actually won the Olympia a few times. There's the guy who finally beat
in which
Ronnie.
division?
It was for the Olympia. It was the guy who beat.
Cutler?
Yeah, there you go. That's
Cutler?
it.
Cutler's
Yeah.
So I actually, when I was making this post, when I first decided to make this podcast, I posted about it on Facebook and just social media, and I said maybe one day I can eventually, because originally when I made this podcast, what my first idea was, and I've already done it now with the first 2 episodes, was interview Instagram fitness celebrities. But then I decided to just branch out because I was like, I want to talk to all my heroes and idols. That's why when you replied, I couldn't fucking believe it. Like I had honestly like a fangirl moment. Like I was like, holy shit. Like, and yeah, and I said Jay Cutler or Kai Green, maybe one day I'll interview.
Yeah. They're all really good. But yeah, that's fun. Now we've firmly lost all of the audience. But like,
I know. I wonder how many people are literally like their makeup is running right now because they're like, he's one of those fucking. And I explained that to people too. I was like, I can still be sad and listen to fucking and lift weights. You don't know. You don't know that Hat Full of Hollow by the Smiths is playing in my headphones every time I'm doing grimy curls, baby. Like,
well, that's the thing about like and especially in America, like bodybuilding is such a weird, like it's still seen as such a strange sport. Like people really don't get it. And what's so funny is that people understand CrossFit, like, but people don't understand bodybuilding.
kind
It's
of.
like,
I
well, it's
don't
like,
understand CrossFit.
well, I mean, like most people will be like, oh, it's a CrossFit gym. You know, it's not like,
Right. Okay.
and then like, oh yeah, this like we're going to try CrossFit. You know, nobody's like, I'm gonna try bodybuilding, or they're just like, that looks weird, and they don't understand that like, it's like that person looks crazy. It's like, yeah, they do look crazy. It's not about like, oh, I find these people attractive or whatever. It's just like that takes an insane amount of dedication, way more than I would ever have.
It's for one, it's a combination of literally when people try to tell me it's not a sport, I always pause and tell them it is the most insane combination of dedication and art that you cannot possibly imagine. You literally your body is a piece of marble and you have to somehow figure out how to make it look the way you want it to. And when I was growing up, literally I used to make fun of bodybuilding and shit like that, and then my kid was born and I had to get in shape because I didn't want to be a bad example of obesity. And I'm obsessed with it. I literally, and it's so weird that you are too because you get it. You don't have to be even immersed in the culture yourself in terms of like being a bodybuilder to understand and appreciate the sport in its beauty. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the thing is like it's. Oh, I also find it so funny that they can be like Super Bowl and people get obsessed with it for that time. And everybody's just kind of like, yeah, they're obsessed with Super Bowl. And it's like the Olympia's on, you know, whatever. And everybody's like, why would you even watch this? It's just like it's the same exact thing. It's just a sport. So it's just
Yeah, it's a sport. Think about how much those people put their bodies through. Ronnie Coleman, did you watch the documentary?
I did, yeah. That was so sad.
He has to take what was it like? He's taking close to like 10 oxycontin a day or something
Yeah,
like
and
that.
he's still like in insane amounts of pain.
It's
That's
so
just
crazy. He did it for the world, man. He did it for himself, but he also did it for the world, dude. And that's why I always label him. I'm like, you can't argue that he's not the best. I think is my favorite, but
he's the
it's
best.
just like, yeah, but Ronnie Coleman's the best. Nobody ever did
Yeah.
what he did. It's like Ronnie Coleman then Arnie, just because Arnie is the one that put it on the map. He's the one that made people interested in it.
Yeah. What do you think of Goth YouTube?
About what?
What do you think of the most of Goth YouTube? Like as a whole.
What do you mean? Like all the other channels?
Yeah, like
You're
yeah.
who I follow, man. Dude. You're my fucking messiah, dude. I
Oh,
literally follow you.
woohoo.
I to some other people because mostly I got into goth music randomly like a couple years back because I heard the March Violets and they're still my favorite goth band to this
It's a good
day.
band.
I don't understand how they didn't get more famous. I don't know if it's because they're famous in the UK and they just could never get their music over here or what it was because they were everything I ever wanted out of a fucking cold wave band. You know what I'm saying? They were post punk, they were cold wavy, like it was phenomenal.
Yeah. I mean that's probably one of those things. That's an almost bands who I like wish had more music videos and old stuff to look back on. But
Shit.
just like if it wasn't made, it doesn't exist. You know?
Yep. Yeah, they have. It's just like I wish. They only have what 2 songs I think recorded. Black Fantasy, but Evil Places is such a banger. They were like the goth Hall and Oates. Like it's so good, dude. There's a bunch of other bands, you know what I mean, that I don't understand how they weren't more famous. And then there's some bands that are obvious. Like I saw Riot Fest 2 years back, New Order, and
Oh
they
yeah.
were still the best out of every set I watched. They were the best. They were the most, again, aesthetically pleasing. I couldn't believe how good they were, and they're fucking ancient.
Oh, New Order. I think
Yeah, and they were.
Bernard Summers looking a little rough sometimes.
Yeah, he was hitting one of these like this is about all he could do in terms of a dance move when they were playing. You know what I mean? But yeah, I don't know. What's your opinion on goth YouTube?
I think it's interesting. I think it's so funny that people argue with each other. I guess any YouTube community does, but
Is there a lot of bickering?
there can be sometimes, but I guess I just don't understand that because I'm not really like on social media that much outside of YouTube. I mean, I'm just not that into social media. I'm a little bit more old school in some of those ways, but um, so it's kind of funny because a lot of the numbers don't mean that much to me. Like when I see numbers going up, or but it's kind of funny. There've been a few distinct feuds between people, and people are always arguing about like, oh, like bigger YouTubers, like, oh, all they do is focus on makeup and like
The
unboxing
mainstream shit.
videos and Killstar hauls, and Killstar is a whole thing where like now there's, even if
Or you do
Killstar,
like videos of more mainstream things, you know what I mean, rather than talking about some, very what's the word I'm looking for? Obscure things. You know what I'm saying? If somebody saw you doing a Lost Boys thing, it's like, oh, well, why don't you do a video about Beverly Hills Vamp? But it's like, because nobody knows what the fuck Beverly Hills Vamp is, you dick. Like,
or even like, or just even like some of my videos, I've said it before, some of the videos I make, they depending on what kind of video it is, sometimes it's not quite as fun to make as it is interesting to watch the final product. Like, because sometimes doing the research or trying to just even find video to talk like of a band to talk about them to show like while I'm talking about it, or different photos and stuff. Sometimes like I would say most of the stuff I do is very interesting when I'm putting it together and I enjoy it. But every once in a while, there's just one where for whatever reason it was just really hard to do. And
which one would you say was the hardest in terms of lackluster?
Well, and as far as like one that ended up being surprisingly difficult to put together was like Christian Death Ashes review, because there's not that much footage. Yeah, there's not that much footage of that band, especially from that time. And even to illustrate my point in that video, there's not even really that much I was able to like. Instead of having footage of like Roz singing these songs in 1985 or 86, I had to use footage from like 93, because there really isn't even a ton of footage that exists from then, or I like to have stuff that's in pretty good quality, and there's not much that's good quality. But a lot of different stuff, like even trying to put together some videos for like Corpus Delicti or something like that would be difficult, because Corpus Delicti doesn't have a ton of stuff that you can talk about, or especially since I usually do stuff chronologically. So, like with trying to make videos for the early Cure stuff, like 17 seconds, there's not that much footage of the Cure from that time.
Really?
You go 1 or 2 albums later, and there's a ton.
Yeah, and they're huge. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's like the earlier the album for some of these really popular bands, like the harder it is to find stuff for them. Or so it's some of those things can be that you don't even think about until you're trying to like find stuff for it. And you're like, man, I could have sworn there were like a billion DVDs or videos of these bands playing this year, but there really isn't. Or like Typo Negative, like trying to find decent quality old Typo Negative stuff is just really hard. But luckily there's been a lot more that's surfaced, because there's been an interest in Typo Negative. But yeah, that kind of stuff.
Isn't that weird how that's surfaced at this time period?
Yeah, I know. And then but it's cool. I'm happy for it.
Yeah. Do you like him randomly, since we're on the topic of Typo Negative? Because that's hands down my favorite band.
Yeah, I think him's pretty good. I mean, like that's one of those bands that people just like have a really weird perspective on, because they're just like, him's not anything related to this. I'm like, well, I think a lot of fans of goth music probably really like him.
Yeah, I'd say I don't think there's a band out there that's like him other than Typo Negative. I mean, because Billy hands down says, like any interview you ever watch him, what's your number one influences? And he's like, Bloody Kisses. Literally, like he says that in like 400 different. He's like, Bloody Kisses. And if you listen to early him, it's a blatant ripoff of Bloody Kisses. You know what I mean? But they do it in their own way, where it's enough for it to not be like, all right, fucking, I get it. You really like fucking Typo Negative,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And the way he sings like this, it's like, it's such a tribute, but in a good way.
Even like their old cover, I always thought their cover of "Don't Fear the Reaper" was really interesting.
It's so slow and just crunchy.
It's good, but it's also like good, and it's also terrible if you like really listen to it. But it's like good in such a bad way. Like,
Really? I think it's brilliant, dude. I think it's such a good song. I bet playing live because it really feels like it's like it was built for playing live.
yeah, but it's I think that yeah, him's got some great music. I mean, I when I was in like years ago, I dated somebody who was super into the band Him. I shaped posters of the band member and all that stuff. It's they got some great albums.
Did that ruin it for you a bit?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I
That's
don't
good. At
really.
least you made it in that sense.
Yeah, I don't really. You know, like I like most things. I mean, I'm not really that much of a hater on most music or anything like that. I try to see the good in everything. I have to review so much music that and listen to so much that if I had any perspective of like I just don't like this one thing, you know, then it would be really hard because you have to
Good.
look
That's
at
how
so
it should.
yeah, you have to look at so much stuff objectively or like in a just in a way that is like outside of your comfort zone. Like I don't just listen to the same 10 songs that I was in high school with, you know, like I don't just listen to the same playlist again and again and again because then I'm never going to find anything new. And then I'll probably be one of those people who just like, I don't like anything new. Nothing good new comes out. And I think a lot of good stuff comes out, but people just are like, they've already made up their mind. Like,
Yeah. But that's what I said earlier when I said I always think there will be something good that comes out. Like recently, I'd say if there's any new wave of music that's coming out that I really enjoy, I really like the whole psych rock generation that's been coming out of like yeah, like No Vacation and like Gus Dapperton and I haven't listened to much Tame Impala, but I'm sure they're good, you know what I mean?
I'm more into Wild Impala
Wild Impala.
instead of Tame Impala.
I'm sorry that flew over my head because that's a dad joke, and I am a dad, and I will use that and coin you for the fucking the. I'll send you like 50 cents. Be like, yeah, Wild Impala. What are you doing? Oh, I'm getting onto my Venmo right now. I owe a friend some money.
That's it. That's how I do it.
Since I'm about to get off in a minute, are there any YouTubers since we're on the topic that you really like, so you can give them a little bit of a shout out?
You know, I really like Sweeney DeVille. We've collaborated a few times. I did an interview with Victoria Fashion before. I met her. She's really nice. But she hasn't made a video for like over a year, I think, which is crazy. But it's got some good content. I guess I mean, most of the goth YouTubers are really cool. I feel like I'm missing a whole bunch now that I'm being asked that. Angela Benedict has some good videos. I'm trying to think of more fun people. God, I feel like I'm missing one. Who am I missing? Oh, the Count from Cemetery Confessions. There's because
Yeah, none of these people. I've never watched any of them. So you
yeah,
gave me some shit to just listen to while I'm at the gym.
yeah, because he does a podcast called Cemetery Confessions, and we're on the Belfry Network as well. The podcast is so there's a
Really?
whole bunch of good stuff on there. The Belfry Network. So
Really?
I think you just type in the Belfry Goth on Google and you'll find it. But they host like a ton of different podcasts and all that stuff. So
Oh yeah,
yeah,
I'll have to look it up, man.
I feel like there's Midnight Owl. Yeah, there we go. That's who I was thinking of.
I think I've heard of that.
Yeah, she's got
Wow.
some great stuff. She has it's kind of she has some pretty serious videos. Sometimes she yeah, it's really and I've had some pretty bad health issues too. So it's kind of like I feel like kinship there. So yeah.
Oh. Well, I don't know if you like me, but I like you, man. And it has been wonderful to speak to you. If you ever want some advice to get into the world of bodybuilding, dude, I'm going to school to become a dietitian and would love to train you. I'll train you for fucking free, dude.
Yeah, it's I'll think about that.
I don't know what your health issues pertain, but yeah, you absolutely have a free personal trainer through me. And if I end up starting the clothing and supplement company, then you will definitely be a sponsored athlete. Even if you don't lift, you'll just be like, why is he giving him like joggers and tank top and stuff like that? And then you can, or it'll just be a picture of you eating Fun Dip, just like in a fucking muscle tank.
Yeah.
And everyone will be like, so is this what I'm inspired? Like, I don't understand. Yeah.
Shredded in spirit.
Shredded in. But you're like, I'd be like, look, the clothing line is called Emo Aesthetics motherfucker. Aesthetics is the primary thing that we're focusing on, is looking as cool as you possibly fucking can.
Nice. I like it.
All right, man. Well, everybody who's watching, I'm gonna put the plugs for his shit in the comment section. And thank you so much, man. I really appreciate it. You made a dream come true for me.
Cool. Thank you as well.
All right, I love you, man. You have a good one.
Okay, bye.
Bye.